fellow senators have pointed out all mistakes, all biomeasures that we did since independence. Mr. Speaker, sir, I was the chair of the Energy Committee, and proudly so, with some of the members sitting in the Finance Committee, with members like Senator Sifuna, Senator Redama Orekina, and we traveled, Mr. Speaker, to the so-called Northern frontier. And we were appalled, Mr. Speaker, that 80% of the land banks of Kenya is not connected to the national grid. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is indeed an oversight that would be done since we got independence. The effectiveness of the Equalization Fund, Mr. Speaker, and the realization that development in any part of this country is development for Kenya. And this calls, Mr. Speaker, for paradigm shift in the way we do our politics. Mr. Speaker, sir, I hear, and I've been in very many counties, and at times it's so painful to see fellow Kenyans the way they live. But we know, Mr. Speaker, that we have the politics that we do to blame. Mr. Speaker, sir, I've said on this floor, and I'll say it again, we have a political obligation, we have a moral responsibility to ensure that we leave a secure country to the future generation. That, Mr. Speaker, sir, can only happen if we take a holistic approach in seeing Kenya as one, not dividing into tribal units, not throwing into tribal cocoons, but having a holistic approach that brings everybody on board and knowing that we can be able to bake a national cake that's big enough for everybody to be shared by everybody, and therefore acknowledging the fact that development in Kenya is development for everyone. Mr. Speaker, sir, indeed, this is not a homogeneous country. We failed in embracing our diversity, in developing the potentiality that we have in our diversity. That can happen, Mr. Speaker, sir, if some of the basic amenities are provided. Roads, Mr. Speaker, sir, electricity, Mr. Speaker, water, if provided to every region in this country, we can transform this country within our lifetime to become what everybody would be proud of. Mr. Speaker, I want also to mention, Mr. Speaker, that the disharmony that we've been having with successful government, each and every government that has come into power since independence comes with a different manifesto. We remember Vision 2030 by Moi Kibaki, a vision, Mr. Speaker, that was seeking to align Kenya to the Sustainable Development Goals. Mr. Speaker, sir, how I wish that the subsequent administration were able to align themselves into this. Mr. Speaker, as we talk about that, we also must embrace the fact that our cultural diversity has propelled other countries to the heights of economic growth. It can also happen in Kenya, Mr. Speaker. We do recall the words of one of our leading presidents in this country, Siasambaya Mechambaya. Mr. Speaker, if we divorce our development from the politics that we do, then indeed Equalization Fund can bring development in every part of the country. But as I say that, Mr. Speaker, it is also important to note that the county where I come from, 52% of that county is an area that is equally marginalized. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, agreeing with what the presentation of our majority leader, subdividing this and breaking down the country into smaller units so that we can bring homogeneity, so that we can bring an equitable approach was a good approach. However, Mr. Speaker, should not also be lost to us that most of the resources that are allocated for the purpose of equalization ends up being mismanaged. Why, Mr. Speaker? We lack a national outlook. We lack a national approach on how to do it, and we are not also able to compare apples with apples, Mr. Speaker. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, it is also good to point out that the approach that is now being taken in the new procurement approach, whereby we bring in more transparency, we bring in more accountability, and most importantly, Mr. Speaker, we fight the opaqueness that has been able to do, which has dogged us since independence. Mr. Speaker, if we are able now to bring in the new approach of public-private partnership, if we embrace that, Mr. Speaker, bringing the transparency, bringing the accountability that's required, we can be able to draw capital, we can be able to draw drivers of enablers who will be able to implement this program, Mr. Speaker, and therefore provide these very, very important resources to our people. I know, Mr. Speaker, one of the regions I've spoken about that is Kieni constituency in Nyeri. Since independence, people have spoken about dams. mega dams, Mr. Speaker, sir. Karimeno Dam, Mr. Speaker. Narumoro Dam, Mr. Speaker. Mohoya Dam, Mr. Speaker. But that has remained effective because we are not able to implement that within the physical space that we're having. To be able to achieve that, Mr. Speaker, it is paramount, it is imperative that we as a House come up with policies that will be able to attract investors so that some of these things can be realized. Mr. Speaker, all is not lost. I've sat in this House for the last 2.5 years. I've listened to debate from the fellow senators, and I am convinced, Mr. Speaker, that we have what it takes, what Senator Sifuna is saying, to see this country bring about progressive politics that will be accommodative of everybody. Mr. Speaker, I live in Karen, Mr. Speaker, and he has been pointed out by Senator, Majority Leader Senator Chariot. Just neighboring to our home, Mr. Speaker, there is an informal settlement. We must come up with a national approach, national policy, how we are going to address such issues. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, that is why I am one of those who support affordable housing so that we can be able to onboard everybody, so that we can be able to bring and to carry everybody on board. Mr. Speaker, there is no one single country in this world that has developed without putting in place social infrastructure to ensure that we take care of the disadvantaged. As we bring equalization across the country, we must not forget the pillars that our people need. And this, Mr. Speaker, includes hospitals, Mr. Speaker, accessibility of universal health system that's working, Mr. Speaker, a good education system, Mr. Speaker, and this can only be achieved if we move to fully registered population so that we can onboard everybody, and most importantly, knowing the status of each and every Kenyan, so that as we do our policies, Madam Speaker, as we implement the policies of the government, as we formulate laws in this House, we can know that we have a fully registered population, as is in the other countries, so that whenever there is an emergency, we can do a targeted, more specific approach, instead of what we've been doing up to now, random interventions that at times end up benefiting the rich. As I sit down, Madam Speaker, I would also want to point out that Equalization Fund is an opportunity that we have. It is that opportunity that we must take and understand that we have a benefit of ensuring that each region in this country, and as I had pointed earlier on, 80% of the landmass does not contribute to the GDP. It is the high time that we bring this to an end. I support, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. Senator Adendulo Fatima.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker, sorry. I joined this debate, Madam Speaker, and it is actually heart-paining and very sad to hear people who come from Nyeri and other parts of the country that they need to kill the spirit of the Constitution, Madam Speaker. I like what Senator Sifuna has said about issues of water in many parts of the country where the Constitution targeted. Madam Speaker, as he has said, people in Nyeri, they have rivers. I'm sorry to talk about Nyeri, Senator Wamatinga, because you are supporting the expansion of the initial list to other parts of the country. People in northern Kenya, or Isiolo, where I come from, they even go for 2-3 weeks without even taking a bath, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in some dams that are constructed, the same dam, people drink and animal use. People drink the water that animals urinate in. Yeah? The same water. Where the animals are drinking and actually dropping everything. Madam Speaker, it's very sad to be selfish as leaders. And I wish there is a way that those who sit at the national level, they can visit those parts of the country and see the kind of challenges our people go through, Madam Speaker. In many parts of northern Kenya, mothers carry jerrycans on their back traveling for kilometers and hours. They leave in the morning at 6 and come back in the evening with one jerry can of 20 liters back home. And that is the same water that they use for animals, the same water they use for their homes, Madam Speaker. Electricity, you will see some part of this country, electricity is connected to mud houses. But if you go to some parts of this country, especially in northern Kenya and where I come from, there is no electricity connectivity in many parts of those sub-counties and locations, Madam Speaker. And I think it is good to be sincere when you stand on the floor of the House and say, yeah, expansion is good. It's not good, it's not fair. It is unequal, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I can tell you this House in the last Parliament made a blunder to have allocated that money to the county government, because that money is shared actually in Nairobi with individuals who don't even know some parts of those counties. There is no public participation. People are given contracts without advert. Madam Speaker, there is need to review the expansion of the list so that we are fair to the people living in those areas or intended for initially as far as equalization fund is concerned. Madam Speaker, in my county, there are dispensaries that were constructed by equalization fund, Madam Speaker. I talk of Mwangaza, the one that Senate visited when they went there. There is a Kadeli that is not even complete. It's a shell. Nobody is actually checking which projects have stalled and which ones have not stalled, Madam Speaker. And I urge Finance Committee to call Equalization Fund or the CS and PS Treasury to overhaul or to look what impact Equalization Fund has on those counties that were intended to support. Madam Speaker, it's intended to run for 20 years. We have almost done 17. There is no impact, zero impact as far as Equalization Fund is concerned, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I believe devolution has assisted in one way or the other. But you can say because devolution is there, we should forget what the intention of equalization is. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I urge Senate Committee of Finance to review the impact of equalization fund in this country. Finally, Madam Speaker, I wish to pass a message of condolences to the 5 people who were killed last night in Isiolo, because there are 4 families that they were tortured to death, and one other person who was tortured to death in Isiolo County. Madam Speaker, I talked about insecurity in Isiolo the last time we had impeachment of the governor. Today, there are 2 speakers fighting in the assembly of Isiolo. Where is the law? Where is the country? And I urge you need to do something about insecurity in Isiolo. And I have discussed with CS Interior and PS Interior as far as County Commissioner Isiolo is concerned. That County Commissioner has stayed there for 8 years. And there's so much insecurity. He's doing nothing. He must be removed. If the government does not remove him, then the will of the people will apply. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dulo. Senator Madago Jackson.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the Equalization Fund allocation bill, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Equalization Fund as was set up was actually meant to bring the areas that were marginalized, Madam Speaker, to what the Constitution describes as general levels where the whole country is, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, even as we look at the current Equalization Fund allocation that we are discussing today, Madam Speaker, one of the key concerns that we should ask ourselves as a Senate is why is it that in the same counties, the same challenges that were there before devolution are still the same challenges we are experiencing in those counties, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Equalization Fund was meant to address 4 sectors: health, water, roads, and electricity. Of key concern to me, Madam Speaker, is the issues of health and water. In terms of health, Madam Speaker, the Equalization Fund that has been set, and I'm very particular with the counties that have been mentioned, including the county of Senator Dulo, Madam Speaker, is that this money should actually be released and made sure that those facilities that have stood there incomplete for the last 3, 4, 5 years are actually completed with the money that has been allocated. Madam Speaker, Isiolo County is going to receive over 270 million. How I wish that the governor for Isiolo, the man who escaped by a whisker, the scissors of this house, would actually use the opportunity that he has to redeem himself by utilizing this money and completing those hospitals, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is also a big concern. When we talk of water in these counties, Madam Speaker, yes, there is scarcity of water, but at the same time, in the rainy seasons, Madam Speaker, you will hear there are floods, roads have been washed away, there is no water. How comes these counties cannot prioritize, even using the equitable share allocation, to make sure they mitigate in these old, long problems these counties have experienced, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, the Senator for West Pokot will tell you, in the road connecting West Pokot to Turkana, there are specific places we experience floods we've been experiencing for the last 60 years, Madam Speaker. I don't understand why dams have not been constructed upstream to harvest that water, considering the allocation that those counties have also been given, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, even as we talk about the Equalization Fund, it should not be lost that the equitable share in terms of allocation, these 11 initially marginalized counties were receiving what I would say reasonable allocation, Madam Speaker. And if you look at the allocation for Turkana, you look at the allocation for Mandera, you look at the allocation for Wajir, you look at the allocation for Marsabit, Madam Speaker, you look at the allocation for Isiolo, vis-a-vis the geographical size and other challenges, Madam Speaker, they have received quite substantial amount of funds, Madam Speaker, that if there was deliberate effort to deploy those resources to mitigate in these all long challenges in those counties, Madam Speaker, today probably we'll be speaking a different language, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we also want to call on the National Treasury. And I want to agree, and I think as a House led by the Chair for Finance, Madam Speaker, we need to cause an amendment to the PFM Act. We must separate the Ministry of Finance for national government and the National Treasury that serves the 2 levels of government, Madam Speaker, so that these funds can be released on time, Madam Speaker, to be able to address the 4 key areas that was meant to address. Madam Speaker, I'm happy that Baringo County is going to receive 967 million, Madam Speaker, and I've seen the distribution. Tiati constituency, Madam Speaker, is going to receive 582 million, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Tiati, as a constituent or a sub-county, is probably 10 times was in Gishu, Nandi, Trans Nzoia, and Elgeyo Marakwet combined in terms of geographical location. To provide some services in some of those places, Madam Speaker, is quite a challenge. And that's why we would wish that the National Treasury would release all these equalization funds on a timely manner so that these regions are able to benefit, services are rendered, and the citizens of those places, Madam Speaker, would be able to access what other Kenyans in other parts are enjoying. Madam Speaker, I wish to implore our governors from this marginalized region, having visited as a committee for health, Madam Speaker, a number of facilities in those counties, Madam Speaker, that even as we send the equalization funds, Madam Speaker, there is need for the leaders in those counties to actually be concerned about the welfare of their people, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it would not be in order to find a facility in that region, a sub-county health facility, or even a county referral facility, Madam Speaker, where women are being asked to carry water as they go to the maternity. Madam Speaker, we are not only discussing areas that are marginalized, even here in Nairobi, and I know the Senator of Nairobi is aware that we visited a number of these, the facilities in this county, and an hospital like Mama Lucy Kibaki, Madam Speaker, is still suffering from a lot of problems in terms of congestion. There is no expansion, and yet if you look at the allocation going to Nairobi County, including their own source revenue, Madam Speaker, they should actually have done better than what we are seeing. I want to call upon the governors in those marginalized counties, particularly the 11 regional marginalized counties, Madam Speaker, that they really have to focus in solving these historical problems that we have had, using both the equalization funds that we are sending and also the equitable share, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would want to ask, particularly the governor for Turkana and West Pokot, where we are experiencing floods that cuts the roads all the time, that if Turkana County, Madam Speaker, with the allocation of close to 13 billion, would just allocate 2 billion per year just to do dams, that would be the highest productive areas of this country. And Madam Speaker, I want to agree with my colleagues who say these marginalized counties are the next frontiers of development, Madam Speaker, because they are well endowed with natural resources, Madam Speaker. Turkana County, Madam Speaker, is where we have oil for this country, Madam Speaker. If you go to Tana River, we have the minerals, we have agriculture, Madam Speaker. If you go to Garissa, Wajir, we have minerals like gypsum and many others, Madam Speaker. As soon as these minerals are exploited, Madam Speaker, it will be a shame for the rest of us who don't want to support the raising of the living standards of the people in those regions to begin moving to those areas, Madam Speaker, in the name that that is Kenya. We must accept that that region is Kenya now when they need development, and it will remain Kenya when the natural resources in those regions are exploited, Madam Speaker, for the benefit of the country. I therefore want to support, Madam Speaker, and ask the National Treasury to make sure that they release these equalization funds in a timely manner. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mwaruma Junes.
Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hii fursa umenipa kuunga mkono huu mswada wa usawazishaji wa maeneo bunge, maeneo ya magatuzi almaarufu Equalization Fund. Mheshimiwa Spika, naunga mkono shingo upande kwa sababu yale maeneo 14 ambayo yalitarajiwa yafaidike na hizi fedha yalipanuliwa mpaka ikawa maeneo 34. Historia ya Kenya, Mheshimiwa Spika, iko bado bayana ya kwamba wakati tulipata uhuru kuna ile sera ambayo iliandikwa na aliyekuwa waziri wa mipango ya maendeleo Mheshimiwa Tom Mboya, inaitwa Sessional Paper number 10 ya mwaka 1965, ambayo ilisema ya kwamba tumepata uhuru na saizi tunajitawala sisi wenyewe. Je, fedha zetu tutazisambaza namna gani ili Kenya yetu iendelee? Na fedha nyingi zilipelekwa maeneo ambayo yana mvua nyingi na rotuba ya juu, kwa kimombo high potential areas. Haya maeneo yalikuwa ni maeneo ya Mlima Kenya, maeneo ya Bonde la Ufa, maeneo ya Magharibi, maeneo ya Nyanza, Mheshimiwa Spika, maeneo ya Pwani, Mheshimiwa Spika, maeneo ya Lower Eastern, na haya maeneo Mheshimiwa Spika yalikuwa yanaitwa Northern Frontier Districts, waliachwa nyuma kimaendeleo kwa sababu rotba ya huko ilikuwa kidogo na pia mvua ilikuwa chini sana. Wakati wa kuandika katiba mpya, Mheshimiwa Spika, waandishi wa katiba wakasema tuache ibara ya 204 ili tutenge fedha kidogo za kusawazisha maeneo ambayo yaliachwa nyuma kimaendeleo kwa sababu ya hii sera ya mwaka 1965 ama Sessional Paper number 10. La kushangaza, Mheshimiwa Spika, bunge hili liliunga mkono kuongeza yale maeneo ambayo yangefaidika. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, kati ya zile kaunti 14 za kufaidika na fedha za usawazishaji wa maeneo yaliyoachwa nyuma kimaendeleo, Taita Taveta ilikuwa mojawapo. Zile fedha za kwanza zilikuja katika hizo magatuzi ama hayo magatuzi. Niliona Taita Taveta wametoa maji kutoka line ya kwanza ya Mzima, na maeneo yakapata maji, maeneo kama ya Mbulia na maeneo mengine ya Mbololo. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati hii sera imebadilishwa ama sera ya pili imechapishwa, Taita Taveta imebakia na maeneo mawili peke yake ambayo ni kata ndogo moja ya kule Kasigau, ambao huu mwaka wanapata milioni 10 na milioni na 1,300,000, na maeneo ya Taveta ambao ni kata ndogo ya kule Chala ambao wanapata milioni 11. Mheshimiwa Spika, na kitu naweza kila siku, wakati tulisema Taita Taveta county yote haina maji kwa sababu zile pesa zilikuwa zitekeleze miradi ya maji, ni kuonyesha ya kwamba maeneo yote yalipata maji. Zile changamoto zilikuwa zinakumba maeneo mengi ya Taita Taveta kwa ukosefu wa maji. Mpaka leo changamoto ni hizo. Huwa ninauliza, wakati tunasema kata ndogo moja ya kule Kasigau ina power milioni 11 ya kutekeleza mradi ya maji, hapo kando kuna maeneo ya Marungu ambayo pia ni kame sana. Hapo karibu kuna maeneo ya Sagala ambayo pia ni kame sana. Tukiangalia Taveta ama kata ndogo ya kule Taveta Chala, wanapopewa milioni 10 za kufanya mradi ya maji, hapo kando kuna wadi ya Maho ambao hawana maji, wadi ya Mata hawana maji. Sasa vigezo vilivyotumika katika utafiti na hii tume ya CRA kubaini maeneo gani yatakayopata fedha, vilikuwa ni vigezo aina gani? Mheshimiwa Spika, kando na maji, hizi fedha zilikuwa zitengeneza barabara. Tangu uhuru, Mheshimiwa Spika, barabara ambayo imetengenezwa za vichochoroni, manake kuna barabara zile tunaita international trunk roads kama ya Voi kwenda Taveta. Ile ni barabara inayounganisha nchi mbili. Ile barabara imetengenezwa Taita Taveta. Kando na hiyo ni barabara kutoka Mwatate kwenda Undanyi. Ile ingine ambayo imetengenezwa ni barabara ya Bura Mission kwenda Bura Station, kilomita 6. Hizi barabara zingine zote zinakuja, tingatinga zinakuja, zinafungua alafu zinakimbia. Hizo barabara zinachukua miaka na mikaka kutengenezwa. Kama hii barabara ya Bura Mugangi, Viruga, Undanyi, Mtwa Magoti, tangu izinduliwe mwaka wa 2020 mpaka leo haijaisha na inahitaji bilioni 2 peke yake. Mheshimiwa Spika, tulitazamia kwamba tukipata hii pesa ya kusawazisha maeneo ya Kenya tungeitumia kutengeneza barabara zetu sisi wenyewe. Aliyekuwa waziri mkuu Raila Odinga siku moja alitumia barabara ya Bura Mgange kwenda Veruga. Ile barabara ilikuwa mbaya na akasema hii barabara ni kama ya kwenda Jehanamu. Nashukuru manake mwaka wa 2020 wakati tulienda kule State House kupigania fedha za Dora, aliomba Rais Uhuru kwamba tupewe ile barabara itengenezwe, na Rais Uhuru akakubali itengenezwe, ingawaje kutekelezwa kwa huo mradi kumekuwa kwa shida. Kitu nasema ni kwamba barabara za Taita Taveta ni mbaya, zote ni mbaya, nyingi ni mbaya, na hii pesa ya usawazishaji, kama Taita Taveta bado wangeachiwa hiyo pesa, tungeweza kufanya hiyo mradi ya kuboresha barabara za Taita Taveta. Mheshimiwa Spika, niseme kwamba Taita Taveta ni eneo ambalo liko na rotuba nyingi. Udongo uko na rotuba nyingi, lakini shida tu ni maji. Na kama Kenya tungetaka kutengeneza utajiri kupitia kwa kuuza bidhaa ng'ambo, basi tungeangazia ile milioni 1 ya mashamba ambayo ni ya Taita Taveta, ambayo ni rangelands, ambazo tungetumia kulisha ng'ombe na mifugo na kuuza ng'ambo, kwa kuwekeza tu kwa miradi ya maji. Chala kuna maji mengi, Njoro kuna maji mengi, Mzima kuna maji mengi. Hayo maji tungefanyia mradi tu wa kuleta maji ya mwagwe, yafanye ukulima kutumia unyunyizaji wa mashamba. Tungekuwa na ng'ombe nyingi, nyasi nyingi za kuuza mpaka Ulaya. Lakini hiyo miradi haijafanyika, na fedha kama hizi za kusawazisha maeneo mbalimbali ya Kenya zingekuwa ni muhimu sana ili kufanya hiyo mradi. Mheshimiwa Spika, Taita Taveta kuna maji mengi sana. Ukiangalia Mzima tu ambayo inasambaza maji kuanzia Taita Taveta, Kwale, Kilifi mpaka Mombasa. Tungepata fedha kama hii tungeitumia ili kufanya miradi kama hiyo. Na la kushangaza Mheshimiwa Spika ni kwamba baada ya ule mradi wa Mzima tu kutotekelezwa, leo hii unasikia kuna mabwenyenye, kuna watu ambao hawaeleweki wamechukua maji kutoka Mzima tu, wametumia line 1 ya Kenya Pipeline Corporation. Sijui wanayatumia kwa nini, lakini ni jambo la kuhuzunisha, ni jambo la kuudhi, ya kwamba tunaweza kutoa maji kutoka Taita Taveta tupatie watu wengine, na watu wa Taita Taveta hawana maji. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kusema kwamba Taita Taveta imewachwa kimakosa kwa hii pesa ya kusawazisha maeneo kiuchumi, kwa sababu nikiangalia Mheshimiwa Spika, majirani wetu wote, nikianzia na jirani wa kwanza ambaye ni Kilifi, inapata milioni 878. Jirani mwingine ni Kitui, wanapata milioni 646. Jirani mwingine ni Kwale, wanapata milioni 475, ambayo eneo bunge moja la Kinango ambalo tunashikana upande wa Macnan Road, eneo bunge moja linapata milioni 265. Kajiado pia ni majirani wetu, wanapata milioni 674. Tana River ambao pia ni majirani wetu wanapata milioni 719. Kitu ambacho ninauliza ni kwamba ni vigezo gani hivi ambavyo vinaonyesha kwamba Taita Taveta hawahitaji hii pesa ya kusawazisha maeneo yaliyoachwa nyuma kimaendeleo, ili ifikie kwamba Taita Taveta yote inapatiwa milioni 21 peke yake. Hilo ni jambo la kutamausha, ni jambo la kuudhi, ni jambo la kufisha moyo, ya kwamba watu wa Taita Taveta hawajisikii tena kama wako Kenya. Nafikiri ni kwa sababu labda ni watu wachache mno ndio watu wanaona ya kwamba hawa hawafai na kura yao ni kidogo. Kwa hivyo wakati wa kutengeneza ama kuangalia vigezo vya kupeana pesa za kusawazisha maeneo yaliyoachwa nyuma kimaendeleo, hawa hawafai, hawana kura. Mheshimiwa Spika, kando na kuwa tuko wachache, hatuna maji, hatuna barabara, hatuna vituo vya afya, pia stima hatuna, kero la wanyamapori ni kitu kingine ambacho serikali ya Kenya imekataa kuangazia kabisa. Ya kwamba hawa watu wameachwa nyuma kimaendeleo, hawa watu hawana mtetezi, hawa watu hawajui kama watajisaidia namna gani, na katika bidii yao ya kulima mimea, kufuga mifugo kama mbuzi, ng'ombe, kondoo, wanyamapori kama simba na chui wanakula wanyama wao. Ndovu wanamaliza chakula yao. Kama kungekuwa na njia, Mheshimiwa Spika, kule Taita Taveta sisi tunapakana na Tanzania, tukatiwe eneo letu twende Tanzania, manake haifai tena, haina maana tena kusikia kwamba sisi tuko Kenya, lakini yale madhila na zile shida tunazopata kama wa Kenya ziko vile zilivyo. Mheshimiwa Spika, sipendi kuendelea zaidi ya hapo, lakini ningeomba kamati ya fedha ya hii seneti, wakati wa kuandika sera ya 3 ya kugawanya hizi pesa za kusawazisha maeneo yaliyoachwa nyuma kimaendeleo, basi tuangalie ili watu wa Taita na Taveta waangaziwe ili.
Senator Sifuna, do you have an intervention? Point of information? Would you wish to be informed?
Huyu ni kiranja wangu na nitafurahi sana akini patia hiyo nani.
Proceed, Senator Sifuna.
Ndugu yangu Mheshimiwa Mwaruma, nimekusikiza kweli ukizungumza hapa na hata mwenzangu Mheshimiwa Ledama Olekina. Tunapata huzuni sana, lakini tunashangaa manake ripoti zipo kwamba baadhi ya viongozi wakuu katika taifa hili la Kenya ni wakazi wa Taita Taveta. Hivi ni kusema hawana habari ya dhila hizi zote ambazo mnapitia. Hilo tu ndio swali nilikuwa nataka nimuulize ama nimjulishe kwamba mkazi mmoja wa Taita Taveta ni kiongozi mkuu wa taifa hili. So sielewi mimi kama Mkenya mambo haya yanawezaje kuendelea ilhali una wadosi pale. Labda tuelezee shida iko wapi?
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, asante Senator Nairobi, Senator Sifuna kwa hiyo taarifa umenipa. Ni kweli kwamba wakuu wengi wa nchi hii wako huko, lakini yale maendeleo ukiangalia pale wako ni kweli maendeleo yanatokea. Kwa mfano kuna barabara 2 kubwa sana ambazo zimetengenezwa, zimetumia mabilioni ya pesa ya kuelekea shambani ya hao wakubwa, lakini huku kwingine tumeachwa nyuma. Na sina haya kusema, manake tukienda leo huko utaona kwamba zile barabara kubwa kubwa zinaelekea kwa hao wakubwa ambao unasema. Mheshimiwa Spika, naomba niachie hapo na niseme kwamba kamati ya fedha watu angalie wakati wa sera ya 3 ya kugawanya hizo pesa. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Thank you, Senator Mwaruma. Senator David Wakoli Wafula.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii ili niweze kuchangia na vile vile kupongeza mapendekezo ya usawazishaji wa rasilimali katika nchi ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, nimesikiliza kwa makini sana baadhi ya viongozi wenzangu ambao wanadhani ama wanahisia kwamba fedha ambazo mtoza ushuru anatoa ni lazima ziende tu maeneo yao peke yao, sisi ni kuangalia kupitia televisheni. Ni vyema waelewe kwamba japo kuna maeneo ambayo yalipata nafasi ya kupata maendeleo wakati wa awamu ya kwanza ya serikali, kuna maeneo ambayo vile vile hayajapata maendeleo kwa huo muda. Na ni lazima tunapotathmini jinsi fedha hizi zinavyopeanwa tuweze kuzingatia maeneo kama haya. Mheshimiwa Spika, ninasimama hapa kwa sababu eneo bunge ama kaunti ya Bungoma ni kaunti ambayo kwa muda imekuwa katika upinzani siku za Mheshimiwa Toroitich Arap Moi na serikali zilizofuata chini ya Mheshimiwa Muigai Uhuru Kenyatta tulikuwa katika upinzani. Na ukiangalia jinsi fedha zilikuwa zinatolewa kupitia hazina kuu ya serikali, wakati huo hatukuwa na kile tunasema tunajivunia katika serikali. Na naamini kwamba ni haki Bungoma ipate fedha hizi kwa sababu eneo bunge la Mlima Elgon na maeneo bunge ambayo yanapakana na Mlima Elgon kihistoria na kimaendeleo yalikuwa yamewachwa nyuma. Na ni lazima wanapoweka fedha katika bajeti, na jinsi nimeshukuru kamati imenukuu eneo la Mlima Elgon, lazima wajue kwamba miundombinu ambayo imo katika Mlima Elgon si nzuri: afya, barabara, maji na kadhalika. Sasa mimi ningeomba mheshimiwa yeyote anaponyanyuka kutoa hoja ajue kwamba Mkenya yeyote popote alipo anaposikiza lazima tumpe moyo, lazima tumpe sababu ya kujivunia kwa Mkenya. Japo fedha hazitoshi, lakini waone kuna jambo zuri linatendeka katika serikali ya Kenya. Sasa lisilokuhusu usiliandame. Sisi watu wa Bungoma tunashukuru kidogo tumepata, lakini tunasema tunahitaji fedha zaidi. Wanapogawa muda mwingine tunataka kuona ipande kutoka milioni 95 ije kama bilioni jinsi kaunti zingine zinapata. Kwa sababu ukiangalia mgao wa fedha, Mheshimiwa Spika, jinsi tulipopitisha hapa awali, baadhi ya kaunti ambazo zinapata fedha nyingi hata sasa katika bajeti bado wanapata fedha nyingi, na muda mrefu wamekuwa wanapata hizi pesa. Lazima tufuatilie, tujue miradi gani inatekelezwa na serikali za kaunti, wanahusisha wananchi katika kutekelezaji miradi hii, na iwapo miradi hii inaafiki matarajio ya wapiga kura ama wanaoishi katika maeneo haya. Mheshimiwa Spika, ninaangalia kaunti ya Busia, wao ni jirani zetu kule, wamepewa milioni 29. Hizi pesa hazijakuja kimzaa. Kuna sababu ambayo imeshinikiza serikali kuweka fedha katika kaunti ya Busia. Na imaanishi kwamba Busia ilipokuwa na naibu wa rais na mawaziri ama walipokuwa na Mheshimiwa Amos wako katika serikali, haimaanishi walipokuwepo watu wa Busia walikuwa katika shamba la asali na nyama. Haiwezekani. Kuna changamoto watu hawa walikuwa nazo, ndiposa fedha zimewekwa kwa bajeti vile vile kama Wakenya waweze kuimarisha maisha yao. Nashukuru wameweka kaunti ya Trans Nzoia hapa, wamepewa milioni 12. Japo kuna viongozi huko washukuru chochote, wanabwata tu, wanaongea tu, na lazima tutafuata tujue hizi fedha zinazoenda Trans Nzoia zinatumika kivipi. Katika eneo bunge la Endebess, watu katika kaunti ya Trans Nzoia, eneo bunge la Endebess, lazima tutawaeleza fedha zinazokuja za usawazishaji zinatumika vipi, ili mjue jumba la Senate linawajali. Japo kuna wale wanapinga serikali, wanatusi serikali na wakututusi sisi maseneta, tutawapea pesa, lakini tutafuata kuhakikisha hizo pesa zinafanya kazi. Na zaidi ya hapo, wanakandarasi wanaofanya hizo kazi lazima watoke katika kaunti husika. Kwa sababu haiwezekani, Mheshimiwa Spika, Senate tunapitisha fedha kama hizi na wale wanakandarasi ni watalii wa kibiashara, wanatoka Nairobi, wanatoka kaunti zingine kufanya kazi ambayo wananchi wa kaunti husika wanaweza kufanya kazi hizi. Sasa mimi naunga mkono kaunti hizi ambazo zimeorodheshwa hapa waongezwe pesa. Wale waliopewa kidogo kama ndugu yangu wataita Taveta, waongezewe fedha, ana haki ya kudai pesa ziongezwe. Na wale ambao wamekuwa wanapewa pesa nyingi na hatuoni matunda, wapunguzwe. Kwa sababu huenda hizi pesa zinaenda katika mifuko ya watu wachache, ili hali wengi wanaumia, hawana maji, hawana barabara, hawana madawa hospitali, na mambo kama haya, Mheshimiwa Spika, hatuwezi kubali katika awamu hii ya serikali. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, ninaunga mkono mswada huu. Asante.
Thank you. Senator Catherine Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this fund. Honorable Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya 2010, as we all know, is a constitution that emphasizes human rights and the principles of human rights, particularly equity, as a key principle that ought to be applied in governance in order to give opportunity to every Kenyan and every region to actualize the benefits of within our country. Mr. Speaker, first to commend the government and the Parliament, 13th Parliament and the 4th Senate, for having operationalized the Equalization Fund. As you are aware, this fund was intended to be a time-limited fund that was supposed to be operationalized as soon as we began implementing devolution in 2013, but this fund has never been operationalized. It is so sad that it's one of the tools of equality that was ignored by the Jubilee government. 13 years, now it is now 13 years. I'm glad that at least now we are on the second phase of sharing out this bill, this fund. Madam Speaker, the Equalization Fund had a particular purpose. It is an affirmative action fund that was intended to be deployed towards fast-tracking the basic development environment in areas that have been marginalized. And Madam Speaker, we have a country that has a lot of disparities, a country where in one you will have a constituency where the worry about the schools is lunch, possibly dinner, while in another place, children in that place are having to read using the lights of nature, the moon in the night, and they don't even have places where they can sit. When this constitution was developed, this fund was put there deliberately to help and hold those areas that were ignored, that were treated as though they are not part of Kenya, to also get their people and their children to have a hope in this country. We have been dilly-dallying around this. We have been arguing, and I blame Parliament entirely for the delay in the implementation of this fund. And that's why I want to commend us that at least we have distributed it now the second time. And despite the disparities that have been put in here, I think it is a good way forward. Madam Speaker, even as we look at the disparities in the manner in which this fund has been distributed, I would want to urge the Senate to actually come up with an oversight tool over this fund. An oversight tool because this fund is supposed to be deployed towards basic services that are also county functions. We need to be able to pinpoint. Now, the second year, when we go to next year, we should be able to say, when we go to Tana River, Senator Mungatana, we should be able to say the funds that were deployed under the Equalization Fund were used to deliver A, B, C, additional to what the county government is doing. We need to be able to say that, and to be able to review, to say, was that the best way in which we'll have fast-tracked in terms of this county? Was that the most needy area that was received these funds? And thirdly, is this the best way in which this fund should have been used? So even as we move forward, I would want you to note that water, health, roads, electricity, and whatever other infrastructure that is contemplated to be delivered under this fund are county functions. So we need to be able to have a timetable or a special schedule to monitor the manner in which this fund is actually bringing up the levels of development in a particular county. Madam Speaker, this should also lead eventually to the determination of changed poverty indices, changed parameters that we are using to determine the equitable share in terms of the nationally collected revenue. So if we don't do this, and I'm throwing a challenge to our Finance and Budget Committee, we must be able to tell Kenyans the value of equalization funds by clearly demonstrating that this is what the equalization fund did in Turkana, and as a result of deploying these funds for 5 years, Turkana was able to move from being measured at this level in terms of the poverty index, to this other level in the poverty index. So I'm throwing a challenge to our secretariat, particularly the budget policy offices, to assist us to come up with a tool that can demonstrate the value of the equalization fund. Madam Speaker, I don't know whether we have resolved, and we need to resolve. This fund was supposed to exist for only 20 years. Now that we have started implementing it, that 20 years, I guess, was contemplated from the time we operationalized the Constitution 2010. We need to have a deliberate pronouncement as Parliament on when this fund will come to a close. And again, Madam Speaker, my view would be one of the determinants of whether this fund should close or not should be a determination that we have achieved what the fund hoped to achieve. And that's why, in my view, we must measure very deliberately how this fund is moving us in development, particularly moving the marginalized areas in development in the 20 years where the fund is supposed to be. Madam Speaker, should it happen, or should we be able to demonstrate the value that this fund has brought about, Madam Speaker, we might even be able, whatever Parliament will be there, might be able to even determine the need to increase it. There's nothing wrong in determining that we can actually take a portion of the national revenue and continue to deploy it towards areas that need to be brought up in order to participate in the development agenda of this country on an equal basis with the others. So as I finalize, I will not speak to the detail of what is there, but Madam Speaker, I find it curious that a county would be given only 31 million Kenya shillings, 29 million Kenya shillings. I don't know what 29 million Kenya shillings will do in terms of real change from marginalization coming up. I fall in the school of thought that felt maybe we should have just picked a few counties, give them adequate funds to bring their infrastructure to a particular level, and then we move to the next and do the same. But if we did so, we must be able to say, in batch one, we are going to have the following 10 counties. In the next batch, we're going to have the following 20 counties, and so on. So, Madam Speaker, I think for those who are appropriating or who appropriated these funds, I am disturbed at the figure of 29 million. I think it is money, but I don't know how 21 million would truthfully assist the areas that are truly marginalized. And I'd like to demonstrate in one way. If you are going to build a school in the far-flung place of Turkana, for that school to be functional, it requires the physical infrastructure, it requires teachers, it requires security, it requires water, it requires energy, it requires a health facility to be there to support that group. So if you give them 29 million, how much can they achieve? It means if they are going to use the equalization funds to fast-track facilities that can get children going to school, we will be waiting every year so that a building is done and it lies fallow as we wait for next year's funds to come to do the water, and then we wait for the next year to come. But if we gave them enough funds to build a school, put water, do the road infrastructure around that school, do a health facility, then you can immediately, you'll have done what this fund was intended to do, to fast track the bringing of those regions to a level where the others are. So I would want to urge us as leaders not to be fixated with tearing the little monies that are there so that you say every county must get a little bit of it. We need to be able to divide these funds in such a way that we can, in 2 years, demonstrate that by deploying so much funds in Turkana and Tana River, we have brought real change to the lives of children, to the lives of women, to the lives of men, to the lives of communities in those far-flung places. So I'd like to ask our Finance Committee to think through the ideology behind Equalization Fund and to be innovative enough to help us to ensure that the deployment of this fund truly does what it is supposed to do, to fast-track that development. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Mudigi Alexander.
Asante Mbi Speaker kwa kunipa ruhusa niweze kuchangia pesa ambazo mjadala inaendelea ya marginalized communities ama groups ama county. Mbi Speaker, yangu ni kuongea kwa kamati ya finance. Ile kazi walifanya kazi ambaye ni ya huzuni katika county zingine, kwa sababu Mbi Speaker, katika Kenya tuko county 47, na wakati tuko hapa sisi hakuna seneta mkubwa na hakuna seneta mdogo, hakuna county kubwa na hakuna county ndogo, kwa sababu sisi ikifika mambo ya keki ya Kenya mzima, Mbi Speaker, kila mtu anavaa serikali. Mbi Speaker, nakumbuka wiki jana tulikuwa napitisha mambo ya budget ya pesa ambacho sitaenda katika masinani ya county 47. Na Mbi Speaker, wakati ingine unakuta makaratasi hii kamati ya finance inatuletea tuweze kupitisha, na saa ingine unakuta hiyo kitu Mbi Speaker haiwezi kutuelekea na njia ile inafaa, kwa sababu Mbi Speaker italeta mgawanyiko katika county zingine na katika sisi maseneta, kwa sababu Mbi Speaker ni mambo ya ajabu. Pesa kama imekuja katika Kenya, hakuna county yoyote haiwahi kupata hizi pesa. Tumeona county zingine Mbi Speaker inapata karibu bilioni 1, zingine milioni 50, zingine milioni 20. Mbi Speaker, kumaanisha na hizi pesa marginalized community inafaa kila county ipate, na nasindwa au kama Mbi Speaker, kama county ya Embu haipati pesa, unakuta county ya Kitui inapata pesa, county ya Meru inapata pesa, county ambacho ambacho zile siko pale, hata Tharaka Nithi inapata pesa, Mr. Speaker. Na mambo ya ajabu katika Embu County, tuko na sub county 4. Katika moja, Mr. Speaker, ni sub county ya Mbeere South, ambaye unakuta hii pesa ni ya kwenda kuongezea mambo ya budget ambaye inaenda masinani na governor, Mr. Speaker. Na katika Mbeere South unakuta kuna watu ambaye wanaenda kilomita kama 20, wengine kilomita 50, Mr. Speaker. Hakuna magari kwa sababu barabara isimeharibika, hakuna maji, Mr. Speaker. Na kubuka hata leo asubuhi kulikuwa na waziri wa maji ambaye nilikuwa nauliza, Mr. Speaker, Embu County itaangaliwa namna gani juu ya mabao ya maji kama Tharaka Nithi na Meru na Tharaka Nithi, ile mabao 3 ambaye moja iko Embu, moja iko Manyata na hiyo nyingine iko Mbeere North na nyingine iko Runyenje. Mr. Speaker, kama tulikuwa nauliza vile tutapata maji, njia ya kilimo yetu ambaye ni mguka na mambo zile zingine, Mr. Speaker, na budget inakuja hapa, Mr. Speaker, unakuta leo hakuna sisi kwa hii karatasi, hakuna kitu ambaye Mr. Speaker Embu tumepata. Na kumbuka Mr. Speaker, mwaka jana Embu County kwa hizi pesa ya marginalized communities hata hizi hatukupata. Unakuta mambo ya agriculture inaenda chini kwa sababu ya kukosa maji, mambo ya parapara pia, hata mambo ya mahospitali ni shinda, hata unakuta mambo ya shule ni shinda, Mr. Speaker. Ni mambo ya kuhusunisha sana, kwa sababu nataka niseme, Mr. Speaker, ile mambo inafanyika na wale watu wanafanya kazi ya mgao ya pesa kama hizi, Mr. Speaker, nasema awatii njia ile inavaa, Mr. Speaker. Mambo ingine ni Mbeere South na Mbeere North, unakuta sehemu zingine unakuta kuna shida nyingi sana. Janga la njaa ikikuja huwa inafuata ile laini, inafuata Mbeere South na inafuata Mbeere North, na hizi pesa inavaa iende isaidie wale watu waweze kuisaidia, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ningesema kwa kamati ya fedha, vile imevaa hizi pesa ni njia aieleweki, ni njia iko na kipendeleo, ni njia ambaye iko na mrengo ambaye haieleweki, Mr. Speaker. Naona vile wamefanya kitu ambaye ni ya kuhusunisha, kama Embu haiko kwa hii mgao ya hizi pesa. Mr. Speaker, nakumbuka mwaka jana hata mimi sikupitiza, hata nataka niseme, Mr. Speaker, kama hii kamati haitafanya ile inafaa itimuliwe na ifunjwe wakati ile mwingine, ndio tuweze kupata, Mr. Speaker, ile kamati ambayo itasaidia kaunti zote, kwa sababu pesa kama inakuja, kama ni msaada kutoka nje ya ng'ambo, kama ni sisi tunalipa pesa, ni afadhali, Mr. Speaker, ukute pesa kila county ipate pesa kulingana na vile inafaa, kwa sababu hata inafaa iangalie county nyingi ambaye marginalized counties sisi sipata budget kubwa kwa ile pesa ambaye inafaa iende kwa counties, kama singine sitaki kusitanja imepata pesa nyingi, na wakati sisi tumeenda kuangalia mambo ya oversight, Mr. Speaker, unakuta county zingine hakuna kitu inafanya, na zile county inajaribu kutoka chini mpaka juu, unakuta haipatiwi pesa kulingana inafaa. Kwa Mr. Speaker, nataka niseme katika Embu County ni mambo ya kuhusunisha sana, na mambo singine, Mr. Speaker, utakuta mijadala itakuwa kuja katika nyumba hii, na tutakuwa na pinga kwa sababu itakuwa inaleta shinda hata mambo ya vyama ama mambo mingi. Kwa hiyo, Mr. Speaker, vitu kama hizi nakuja ni vitu ya kufanya watu wakosane, kwa sababu hata nakumbuka mwaka jana wakati nilisema sitaunga mkono, tuliambiwa tuandike barua tuweze kupeleka kwa wale watu wanaangalia vile pesa mgao ya pesa inafanyika. Na Mr. Speaker, nikaongea na governor na akaandika kila kitu, na mambo ya ajabu siku ya leo Embu County haiko kwa hii kikaratasi tu, iko county 40 na ine sile zimepata pesa, na Mr. Speaker, Embu County haiko hapa. Kwa hiyo Mr. Speaker, ningeomba wakati ule mwingine Embu iweze kuangaliwa. Na Mr. Speaker, nikimalizia mimi nasema, Mr. Speaker, hata kama ni nani atakuja kuniambia niweze kuunga hii wakati tutaenda kuweka kura, nasema Mr. Speaker, hii nitapinga. Kwa hiyo Mr. Speaker, napinga na sina maneno mingi. Ni mimi Senator wa Embu County, Senator Alexander Mudigi. Asante Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Mudigi. Senator Beatrice Akinyi Ogola.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this bill referred to as the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill 2025. And from the onset, Madam Speaker, I want to request my colleague Senator Mudigi that when the time comes, he should rethink and support this bill. Madam Speaker, I want to request him because in this country, there is a key tenet that everybody looks forward to, the issue of equity. And this bill, Madam Speaker, with the monies that have been spelled out, will find that services will be granted to counties that would have otherwise been disadvantaged with the little funds that they receive, Madam Speaker. And I want to tell Senator Mundigi that it is only a very unwise person that would not change their minds. So when the time comes, with the wisdom I see in you, Daktari, consider changing your mind to support this bill. And so, Madam Speaker, I support this bill. Madam Speaker, our people need critical services that have been spelled out in this bill. The services of water, the services of roads, the services of health, and the services of electricity, Madam Speaker. Those are public services that each Kenyan needs to be sure that they will be provided with. But it is because of the limitations, Madam Speaker, and it is because of the marginalized areas, some of the marginalized areas we have in this country, that they are not able to get these services. And so if in our wisdom, we see that certain counties need to be given an extra coin just to ensure that there will be equity in terms of services that the people need, then, Madam Speaker, I support this bill. Madam Speaker, the critical services of water. Water is so critical, Madam Speaker. It is a basic need, and every Kenyan really requires to have water within some small radius, Madam Speaker. Even the issue of roads. Madam Speaker, I'm happy, and I want to support this. There is 16 billion that has been set aside to be distributed, and of course, it could not have been distributed equally because these areas have different parameters. But, Madam Speaker, I'm happy Homa Bay County has 214 million, 965 shillings. Madam Speaker, this may look small money, and even though a number of speakers have said the monies we have here, 16 billion is a little money, but Madam Speaker, it is better to start with something small so that our people can see the beginning of the provision of these services. In Homa Bay County, Madam Speaker, the criteria goes ahead to give 4 sub-counties some little money to share from the 214. We have Homa Bay Town constituency being given 10 million. Suba North constituency has 29 million, only Boni Halwale. And Boni should stop to listen that Ndewa constituency, which is my constituency, which is a marginalized constituency, we should be considered as a hardship constituency. Boni we have, Ndewa has black cotton soil, Madam Speaker, and we have no roads, Madam Speaker. And that is why I'm delighted that from the 214 million, Ndewa constituency has been granted some 120 million, Madam Speaker. I therefore want to support, but to go ahead to say that this money, when it gets there, it must be ring-fenced for the purpose of which it has been granted, Madam Speaker. In Homa Bay, Suba North has 53 million, and as I've said, Suba South has 53 million, Suba North 29, and Ndewa, which is my constituency, is 120 million. Madam Speaker, I do not support it just because it is my constituency, but I support it because of the difficulties that our people have. Right now, there are rains in Ndewa constituency. You can hardly get a road other than the tarmac road that we used to move from Rodi, that is in Homa Bay Town constituency, to Sori, Madam Speaker. Any other road beyond that tarmac road is not motorable as I speak to you, Madam Speaker. Only last week I was at home, and Madam Speaker, even a road that we used to move from the sub-county, from the constituency headquarters, next to the CDF offices that traverses my ward. Madam Speaker, you can hardly move in it. So it has made our people's life to be miserable, Madam Speaker. Transport is expensive, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, just months ago, in a place where our local people you'd use a motorbike for 50 shillings, Madam Speaker, and that is not a very far area. Madam Speaker, today, all our people are required to, it costs our people 300 to 500 shillings to just move in a very short distance. And Madam Speaker, it then means that even the cost of doing business for our people is so high. Madam Speaker, where I come from, a majority of people do subsistence farming. People who grow some vegetables and transport it to the markets, some tomatoes and transport it to the markets, some maize, some groundnuts, some beans, Madam Speaker, but it is becoming very expensive for our farmers to move their goods from their homes, from their farms, even to the market. And so, Madam Speaker, when some funds are appropriated to improve our roads, Madam Speaker, I would only rise here to support that bill. Madam Speaker, even the issue of water. Madam Speaker, being a woman, I know how critical access to water is to our people, and especially to women, Madam Speaker. So if we have money that is going towards the development of water so that our people can get water closest to them, then I would definitely support that bill. So, Madam Speaker, the other critical service that this bill, these monies will support is the issue of health facilities. Madam Speaker, health is critical. Some of these basic services that are spelled here for support are the major services that our people demanded to be devolved, Madam Speaker. And so I want to support this because, Madam Speaker, health facilities will be improved, if not expanded or improved, as I say, and we hope with this little money, Madam Speaker, those who are going to use it will ensure that our people have essential services in the health facility. Madam Speaker, the other critical service that is spelled out here to be used with the funds that are appropriated here, that are going to be appropriated here, is the issue of electricity. Madam Speaker, I still want to come back to my constituency, which is Liwa, that our people still do not have adequate access to electricity. Just the other month, the President was launching the last mile connectivity in my constituency, and Madam Speaker, if you remember, I was here asking the CS Energy to confirm to me and reassure me as somebody from their constituency that other than the launch will translate into our people getting electricity in the last mile connectivity. Madam Speaker, some 1 year ago on this same floor, I'd raised the issue of even faulty transformers in my constituency and in my county. And so I'm happy that these monies are going to help to improve access to electricity for my people in Homa Bay County, and particularly in their constituency where I come from. In that constituency, Madam Speaker, there are all the faulty transformers. Of the inventory that were given by the CS Energy, once in this house, Madam Speaker, and there was a promise that the CS made that those transformers they are going to be corrected, Madam Speaker. But I want to tell you that up to now, even the inventory of the specific transformers that the CS spelled out would be improved in that year, they are still not working. Half of my constituency still is in black, is in darkness, Madam Speaker. But with the last launch that we have, I'm looking forward that something will be done, and I'm happy that the amount of money that has been given in this equalization fund, Madam Speaker, is going to go ahead to support the improvement of electricity, not only in my constituency, but in other constituencies, as spelled out, is going to help in improving roads, and especially, Madam Speaker, we keep on saying that our people should develop themselves, should go for grow themselves. But Madam Speaker, it is not easy for our people to even grow, to come up, if there are not roads from where they come from. Madam Speaker, over 60 years after independence, we should not see some of our areas with no roads, as I see in my constituency, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I want to support this bill, and I want to say that the monies that will be appropriated here will lead to equity in services across the country, will lead to equality in services across our country, and I'm happy it is specific about water, about roads, about health, and about electricity. But, Madam Speaker, as I support this bill, I want to say that the money might not be adequate, but let us take this for now and let us improve on it in the coming years. Madam Speaker, I support.
Thank you, Senator Beatrice. Senator Mariam Sheikh Omar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I also rise to support the bill, equalization bill. Madam Speaker, this equalization fund was established in the Act 204 of the Constitution, Madam Speaker. The figure of the fund is 0.5% of nationally collected revenue nationally. Madam Speaker, and this money fund is, the purpose of the fund is to reduce or to eradicate inequality in the counties, and also to ensure the equitable access to service delivery. Madam Speaker, the services, most of them is water, roads, electricity, and health, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this bill is where it requires, to use the fund, we require a framework. So that's why we need this bill to be in place so that we can use the equitable equalization fund to be utilized. Because the way it is before, if it is a fund, you cannot access the fund without the framework. So this is the one of the framework to be accessed. Madam Speaker, there is many projects which has been done under this equalization fund. In 2018 to 2019, almost 352 projects has been done and it's completed. Madam Speaker, in my county, in Mandera County, Madam Speaker, the amount which has been given is almost 1.2 billion, Madam Speaker. For Banissa, the 157 million. Lafe is 247 million. Mandera East, 209 million. Mandera North is 231 million. North and Mandera South is 227 million. Mandera West is 157 million, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, these monies is almost 1.2 billion. If it is utilized properly, Madam Speaker, we don't have the issue of water, the issue of health service, health facilities to be having good services, and electricity, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, 60 years ago, since independence, Mandera County doesn't have road. Madam Speaker, the equalization fund was implemented. It has not been implemented since it has been established, that is 13 years ago. Madam Speaker, if this money can be, instead of giving portion, because the way they are giving out, there is redundancy, Madam Speaker. There is bureaucracy, because you request through the control of budgets, through equalization fund, advisory board, to the treasury, Madam Speaker. That long queue of requisition might take long to get the money back and use for the purpose on time. So to reduce that, to my opinion, there's no need of this equalization fund board. Because if at all the money can be requested through country control of budget, after that national treasury, why to go to go to advisory board is one of the issue which makes this implementation to take long. Madam Speaker, the road into Mandera and electricity, Madam Speaker, we have a problem with electricity in Down. Madam Speaker, last 6 months ago, we are in darkness. Later on, the ministry gave us some generator, Madam Speaker, instead of solarizing, because we have a nature which is enough to give lights to Mandera, the whole Mandera County, Madam Speaker. So it needs now, the government must think of, instead of purchasing the generators, Madam Speaker, it's better people think of how to use the nature, the sun, which is plenty, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the road from Mandera to Nairobi, Madam Speaker, it is under now the World Bank, Madam Speaker, which His Excellency promised by the end of this term, he will implement and complete, Madam Speaker, the promises. So, Madam Speaker, we as Mandera County, we appreciate the way he take the initiative to complete Isiolo Mandera County Road to Mandera County Road. Madam Speaker, the health facility, Madam Speaker, with this equalization fund, we have KMTC, which is now in Mandera County, which our people, almost 1,000 something, 2,000 students are learning through this fund, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, water service, Madam Speaker, we as Mandera County, Madam Speaker, we have to think of how to help our people, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when it comes to water issues, women are most affected one, because we carry water in long distance. We take care of the water, the family issues with water, Madam Speaker. As a women representative, Madam Speaker, the county government must take priorities, because priorities of solving the issue of water issues, so that the women can be engaged in another activities, which is not searching for water of their rights, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, again, 90% of the voters in all 47 counties are women. So they have to put in place how to help them through, that is the facility which can take them, they can affect them rightly, is water and health facility, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, through SHA is when now the health facilities, at least it's coming up, because people are not paying money, and SHA is at least working to sort out people on the ground in a facility, 4 levels, and levels of the hospitals, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, to manage this equalization fund, Madam Speaker, we need a strategy. If the government, with the request, give us this money in portions, this 1.2, if you do it at once or twice quarterly, Madam Speaker, it is effective. But if you are giving him pits at 1 million or 2 million or 3 million, Madam Speaker, it cannot be eradicated, this marginalized equality in a county issues. So it must be, we have to sit down and think of what is the function of the fund. One is equalizations, yes, to eradicate the marginalized areas, to have the facilities of water and road. But if given in bits, Madam Speaker, it is more of difficult to help how to improve in this. Madam Speaker, for when it comes to, Madam Speaker, we need also to improve on irrigation, Madam Speaker. In northern Kenya, our economic sector is on pastoralist. Madam Speaker, we have to change our mindsets from the pastoralist, from livestock to agriculture through this fund by coming up with irrigations, the major dams, by harvesting some this flood water. That's harvesting, it can take us, if we harvest a dam, major dams, it can take us almost 2 years or 3 years, and we can change the status of our people through agriculture, through irrigation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, with that, I support the bill. Thank you.
Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to contribute to this bill. Honorable Speaker, the Coalition Fund was done, formatted in 2004. And the purpose was to bring at bar, in terms of development and achievements, 14 counties that have been neglected for many years, including my county. And the funds were not released immediately, and it stayed for a long time in the treasury before it was distributed. However, it accumulated a lot of money, and to date, the money is being released in piecemeal. My county now is receiving 1.6 billion, but this actually is insignificant because it has been, again, split into small bits of money, like a million, 1.5 million, 1.58 million, 88 million. This money, if well utilized, would have made some significant improvement. However, when it went through counties, the money was further split into small pieces, small funds, money. That the purpose of, having one major project that will benefit, that will have a long-term benefit, cannot be achieved because this money was split further. A committee was formed, and now it's actually under the control of the governor. And now the money is now being used to lure some supporters and all these things. That the money is being distributed in piecemeal, like 2 million for a project, 1 something million, 3 million. So it misses the whole purpose. One other thing, Your Honorable Speaker, that this money was initially meant for 14 counties. But of course, probably many other counties had similar problems. And now there are 34 counties, of which the 16 billion that has been released is actually insignificant for these counties to make a big stride on development. Honorable Speaker, this is the only way we can be able to achieve something in these counties, the counties like northern Kenya especially, in Turkana, Wajir, to come at bar with other part of Kenyans in terms of development, is to have a major investment in development. That mega dams, when you give a small area or a certain center 1 million or 2 million shillings, for electricity, I think it doesn't meet the purpose. When you give that same money to build one classroom, it doesn't meet the purpose. The intention of this money was at least have a mega project for these areas so that at least they can be able to catch up in terms of food security, in terms of electricity supply, in terms of water supply. But as it is now, the CDF, the Equalization Fund has missed its target and purposes. There's a lot of money that is being held still in the Treasury. I don't know whether money is still there or it has been diverted, because it happens always when money going to the arid areas normally are being diverted always by respective governments. And therefore, what I want to say is that as much as we appreciate that this fund at least is going to make a difference, but however, as it is, I think it will not make a purpose for us today as Northern Kenyan people, because the development is far-fetched, that what is now remaining, it was only for 20 years, actually. The whole development was, the money was meant for 20 years. So that they believe that by 20 years, these counties will be able to develop well. The county of Wajir, Tana River, Mandera, Garissa, Turkana, and then all these places. But today, the CDF was only seeing that we're seeing that is making some impact on the ground. But of course, the money now again at a lot of bureaucracies. It goes through the COB, it goes through the governors, it goes through the advisory board, and it's actually budgeting is not done at the counties. It is being done at the advisory board. Therefore, when you give a certain project of 2 billion shillings, or 1.5 million, then I think that is a very wrong approach for development. Honorable Speaker, I will urge that the period remaining out of 20 years is, I think only remaining now is about 6 years now. So for those 6 years, at least to achieve something good, all the funds that have been held in treasury should be released, and it should be given in small bits, so at least we can have a major impact, and development can be done for the few remaining years. Otherwise, the time frame should be reviewed, not 20 years now, so I think we should also increase the time so that we can have a significant development for these areas. And then giving to 0.5% is also not something that can actually help, funds that can be able to help those areas in terms of development, because the roads are just wanting. There are no roads now. The water is scarce. There's, always droughts have been coming every 5 years. There's drought. Food security actually is also a problem. And therefore, I will request Treasury and the government, and those who are making the budget, to at least look into reviewing the period for this kind of this money, this equalization funds. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to support the motion.
Senator Hamida.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise to support the Equalization Fund, Madam Speaker, bill, which seeks to give effort to Article 204 of the Constitution by provision of the release and use of Kenya shilling 16.8 billion from the Equalization Fund for the financial year 2025 and 2026. Madam Speaker, I will only touch on a few key areas so as not to repeat what has been contributed. I looked at the rationale for the bill, and the purpose it seeks to facilitate and access essential basic services, namely water, roads, health facilities, and electricity, Madam Speaker. It's also the marginalized areas, and it really brings, the goal it's bringing, it's more or less brings a parity with the rest of the country. This bill, Madam Speaker, provides a legal and structured framework that is required by the Constitutional and Public Finance Management Act, PFM Act, that ensures that these funds are properly disbursed and utilized, Madam Speaker. Over a decade into devolution, many countries or many counties still experience pockets of marginalization, Madam Speaker. And seriously, for this fund, it's long overdue. And it has hindered many residents from enjoying the benefits of the basic services, Madam Speaker. The bill, therefore, it is timely and necessary. For example, I'll touch on the key provincials and the geographical impact, Madam Speaker. The provincial clause 2 and 3 authorizes 16.8 billion to 16 billion, including it authorizes 16.8 billion for FY20 for the year 2025 and 2026, including 504 million for equalization fund secretarial operations, and also Kenya shillings 16.296 billion for development expenditure across 34 counties. Clause 4, Madam Speaker, explicitly excludes the funds from being deposited in the county revenue funds under Article 207. Clause 5 also does provide that approval for the projects will not lapse at the end of the financial year and will also remain in force until all projects are completed. Clause 6, Madam Speaker, provides that disbursements require both the controller of budget authorization and written instruction from the Equalization Fund Advisory Board, Madam Speaker, via the National Treasury. Madam Speaker, I realize this is quite significant, and that's the best, I'm looking at in this bill, because the bill honors our constitutional mandate to uplift all historical marginalized regions. I have seen Senator Mariam actually trying to compare, the Mandera counties and the other counties, and I feel strongly that I feel for them, and I realize that the bill accelerates equity in development, giving vulnerable constituencies the infrastructure needed for education, healthcare, economic activity, and dignity. Healthcare is key here, Madam Speaker. When we moved around with the health committee to different counties, we realized that people are really in dire need of healthcare services. And I really wish we could have different counties with state-of-the-art hospitals that take care of Kenyans, Madam Speaker. For example, a county like Laikipia was taking care of about 5 to 6 counties. The Isiolo, the Marsabit, some of the Meru, and others were depending on Laikipia county on healthcare. Then we find other counties that don't operate, they don't even have theater services even after delivery or in case of any delivery, Madam Speaker. So seriously, the funds are long overdue that the Kenyans have been waiting for development. The geographic impact, Madam Speaker, excuse me. I've seen the bill affects over 70 constituencies across 34 counties, including Turkana, Wajir, West Pokot, Garissa, Tana River, and other identified as marginalized. The largest allocation I've seen, Madam Speaker, is Turkana with 1.86 billion, Narok with 1.25 billion, Mandera 1.22 billion, West Pokot 1.66 billion, and Samburu 1.05 billion. I think this is key, Madam Speaker. I seriously support the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill 2025 and urge, for that reason, that it's expedited and considered as historical when in fact, if we observe if we have observed the delays in the disbursement of these funds, Madam Speaker, often towards the end of financial year, let us act swiftly and timely to ensure that implementation and delivery of these services should be to the communities that need the services and development is moved as swiftly as possible. Madam Speaker, I think I'll only speak to that because many have discussed certain issues and I do not want to repeat what has been discussed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Seki.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I also wish to put my voice to this important bill on the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill 2025. Madam Speaker, in the instant, I want to support this bill and support because it is true that there are counties that are yet behind others in this country, Honorable Speaker, in areas of development, particularly on infrastructure, Honorable Speaker. The marginalized counties, the semi-arid and arid counties, have really realized a very strong problems, or even big problems on infrastructure, particularly water, roads, health services, Honorable Speaker. And this bill comes in a handy where we try to bring these counties to a level where the others are. Honorable Speaker, looking at the county like Kajiado, which they have realized or they have benefited with 674, 525, 449 million, which Kajiado Central have been apportioned at 233 million, 919, 794. Kajiado South receiving 102, 681, 312, and Kajiado West receiving 337 million, 224, 343. Really, the Commission of Revenue Allocation has apportioned this through their, through the kind of research they have done, and they have realized it is true these sub-counties are quite marginalized, Honorable Speaker. Looking at the county, a sub-county like Kajiado South, where you have very big wards with a big population, and you hardly get a road in one of a road that crosses the entire ward. People are using motorbikes, bicycles. Even people use foot to transact, even to go to market areas. Women getting very hardly for them to get even water to drink, not even to wash, or even to use washing themselves, or even cleaning their houses. Honorable Speaker. This is a bill that comes to equalize even other areas within the county, Honorable Speaker, rather than even the country, Honorable Speaker. Health services, we find that somebody would even go for almost 5, 6, 7 kilometers without even getting a health center or even a dispensary, Honorable Speaker. This bill comes in a hand where the county, through the board, the board of this bill, and the secretariat will realize this needs of these areas, such that they try now to put that this project, Honorable Speaker. It is true that we've been having this bill all along, but we have a problem where the implementation of this bill is becoming a big problem. When we realize these funds, this money is being divided into small parts, or even into small projects of 2 million, 3 million, 1 million, which will not bring any impact in the county, Honorable Speaker. Our request, and as this House, the Senate should supervise, should also go through and look at how this money is being appropriated, or even being subdivided within the sub-county, or even within the ward, Honorable Speaker, so that we realize impact. We see impact within our wards, and it should not be left to governors to, give directions on how they use this fund, because sometimes they go and, subdivide this money, allocate this money in very small units, small numbers, such that we are unable to realize the impact of the money, Honorable Speaker. I want to say that the kind of issues that we are seeing here, we want really to put a lot of strength, or even to fill some gaps, such that we don't see other pending bills coming in this kind of a bill, this monies, Honorable Speaker. We want to put a lot of restrictions, even in that bill, that appropriate, that also try to control the regulations that controls this bill should be put in place, such that we realize the gaps within the implementation of this bill. Honorable Speaker, I want to believe that awards like Kimana that have not been appropriated that bill in Kajiado North, South, in Kajiado Central, Ildamat ward, which did not receive, because they are also having some areas that needs to be allocated some funds, particularly electricity and such kind of services. A ward like Imaroro ward in Kajiado East. So I think these are the kind of things that we really need to follow up as the Senate, so that we see those counties that have benefited as also realized this money within the sub-county, and even within the wards that have a problem on areas of marginalization. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, I submit and support this bill. Thank you.
I'd like to call upon the mover to reply. I don't have any other contributor scheduled.
Madam Speaker, I thank you. And very briefly, in reply, I want to agree with the contributions of just about everybody, because we are all in agreement that this is a very important piece of legislation in respect of trying to equalize the country constitutionally. As I normally say, Mr. Speaker, in politics, I don't believe there is anything like the wrong opinion. To me, I always look at the opinion of a leader not as being wrong, but as the other opinion probably different from mine. But having said that, I'm paying to remind the House, even as you celebrate little allocations of around 21 million shillings from this kitty to your county, and in the process denying the original 14 counties that quantum that would have made a huge difference within a period of only 20 years. Please remember that there is a difference between fighting marginalization and fighting poverty. This was a fund intended to fight marginalization, which had been put in place because of wrong policy that was founded in sessional paper number 10 of 1965 and the wrong attitude by governments in Nairobi that deliberately ignored certain constituencies in this country, Mr. Speaker. So even as you do so, you must know that that was the spirit of the Constitution, to address this marginalization in a period of only 20 years. The factor which now seems to be under play of using this fund to fight poverty, you are wrong. Poverty is fought through the formula. That is why poverty has a weighting index of 12%. It will be there in perpetuity. But fighting marginalization was supposed to be righted in a period of only 20 years. And I saw, Speaker, you got it very well when you're making your presentation, that now that we are in year number 13, the sunset clause should now be reviewed. If we don't review it, then the intended benefit will have been lost. I wanted to say only that much on this, and Madam Speaker, I reply. And pursuant to Standing Order number 66-3, I'm replying. You'll have a chance. Relax. Pursuant to Standing Order number 66-3, I request that the putting of the question to be deferred to a later date. And I thank you.
Honorable Senators, I'd like to get back to an item that was deferred by the Speaker, order number 6, the notice of motion. Please call it out. Sorry. The question to the motion just ended on equalization fund appropriation bill is deferred to tomorrow. So next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Is it order number? Which one number is? Senator Karen Nyamu.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'd like to give a notice of motion, installation of CCTV cameras in all police station cells and police reporting desks. Aware that Article 51 of the Constitution provides that a person who is detained, held in custody, or imprisoned under the law retains all rights and fundamental freedoms in the Bill of Rights, except to the extent that any particular right or a fundamental freedom is clearly incompatible with the fact that the person is detained, held in custody, or imprisoned. Further, aware that the National Task Force on Improvement of the Terms and Conditions of Service and other reforms for members of the National Police Service and Kenya Prison Service recommended adequate government funding for the National Police Service to modernize its facilities, equipment, and gear, and enhance its logistical and technological capabilities for National Police Service officers in order to enable the service discharge its mandate efficiently and effectively. Cognizant that the Bill of Rights provides for protection of all human rights, prevention of abuse, and upholding of the rule of law within detention facilities and police stations, concerned that there has been increasing reports of human rights violations, abuse, unexpected injuries, and deaths in custody, as well as security breaches and escapes from police cells across the country. Further, concerned that despite the recommendation by the Justice Maraga Task Force, little or no efforts has been made to ensure modernization of police cells by installation of closed-circuit television, CCTV cameras, and police reporting desks, thereby affecting police, public trust and accountability in what happens to persons in police custody. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves that the national government, through the Ministry of Interior and National Administration, 1, installs functional and tamper-proof CCTV cameras in all police stations and cells and police reporting desks across the country. 2, ensures that all CCTV systems are monitored in real time and that footage is securely stored and made accessible during investigations, judicial processes, and 3, provides the necessary resources, technical support, and training to law enforcement officers for the effective operation and maintenance of CCTV systems and continuous digitization of occurrence book platforms. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I have a communication to make on visiting teachers and students from Meteitei Secondary School in Nandi County. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting teachers and students from Meteitei Secondary School in Nandi County. The delegation comprises 8 teachers and 156 students who are in the Senate for a one-day academic exposition. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. Senator Chirarke, Senator Fonandi, you may wish to welcome the team.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to join you and other colleagues in welcoming Meteitei High School in Tindred Sub-County or Tindred constituency in Nandi County. I know they have been privileged to have watched notice of motion by Senator Karen Nyamu and, of course, the reply to the bill by Senator Boni Kalwale, who is coincidentally the neighbor to Nandi County. And Madam Speaker, Meteitei High School is one of the best schools. Of course, after what yours truly went to Kapsawat Boys High School, is one of the topmost, alongside is Meteitei High School. And we are proud of the boys. I know we are doing a lot in that school in terms of infrastructure. I hope they grow to be men of courage, brave. Madam Speaker, it will be of interest that this school is situated in Tindred constituency, where the vibrant, the famous 7 bearded sisters, Jean Maria Serone, was a member of Parliament. And coincidentally, Jean Maria Serone, for your information, Madam Speaker, was my grandfather. So that constituency is one of the best, and we are proud. I want to wish them well, work hard. One day and one time you'll be able to sit in some of these leadership positions. We wish you well. Learn as much as you can. The future belongs to all of you. The only advantage you have over us is age. You are still young, you can make. Madam Speaker, with that indulgence, Thank you very much, and I wish them all the best. I thank you.
Honorable Senators, as per earlier ruling by the Speaker, we now move on to order number 18.
Order number 18, the County Government's Additional Allocations number 2 Bill, Senate Bills number 8 of 2025, second reading.
Who's doing it for Majority Leader? Is that Whip? Thank you. Finance Committee. It's Finance Committee, sir.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I rise to move motion number 18, being the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill 2025. And Mr. Speaker, because sometimes members of the public follow these proceedings, it's good for us to clarify to them what we mean by County Government Additional Allocation Bill. Basic. And this is a bill that provides for additional allocation of money to county governments. This money comes in two limbs. The first limb, the money is given conditionally, and the other one, it is given unconditionally. Where it is given conditionally in this law, it means that the money must be spent on the specified reason for which the money has been given. And unconditionally, it means you spend it as you like. Let me give you an example. Let's say the money realized from court fines. Once you realize that money, you are not obligated to spend it on a specific thing. It is money that has gone into the county revenue account, and therefore you spend. But the one which now goes to county revenue account as conditional, it goes there probably from proceeds of grants, from loans. Then it specifies that you shall use it for water or some other activity, Madam Speaker. Having said that, may I also clarify that additional allocations are strictly processed by my committee, Committee of Finance, congruent to your recommendations when in this House you debated and passed the budget policy statement. Madam Speaker, these additional funds, they are specifically provided for in the Constitution, Article 202, Sub-Article 2 of our Constitution. And additional allocations, Madam Speaker, are required for transfer for functions from national government to county governments pursuant to standing order number, to article, not standing order, article number 87 of the Constitution, and additionally, additional allocations in the form of loans and grants from development partners. Madam Speaker, I have already spoken to what does it mean by unconditional allocation. Allow me to speak to it more technically by further clarifying, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I found that members of the public truly follow these proceedings, and some of them are professionals. So if you're not careful, they can wonder whether you're speaking Greek in a house that has got only students who speak English. Madam Speaker, these grants and conditional allocations are to the beneficiary county governments from proceeds of court fines emanating from contravention of county government legislation, as set out in column A, which is in this schedule that is attached to the bill for those of you who will take trouble to go through it. And then also, and conditional allocations to the beneficiary county governments emanate from 20% of the share of minerals royalties pursuant to the provisions of the Mining Act. Madam Speaker, county additional allocations that are due to each condition, to each county, they come from the national government's share of revenue. And this share of revenue in this particular bill is specifically for the year 2025-2026 and shall be set out in the schedule which is attached. I will not go dissecting the details of the second schedules because it just speaks to the institutions that are advancing that money in the form of the actual names of the development partners. There are quite many. So when you scan the schedule, you will by yourself see it. Madam Speaker, there is an aspect to these allocations which is deliberately put to incentivize governors, to incentivize county governments and the county assemblies so that they can be rewarded for prudent management of resources. Allow me to specify this very important issue, and governors and MCS listening into this debate.
Senator Nyamu, can you walk out and speak from out? You cannot speak on phone loudly while the session is going on. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I need that I be very clear on this one, on incentivization. The governors who steal funds, who do not manage the funds well, they lose out on the following monies because this law rewards good manners, rewards performance. And it says to those who will not fall short of the glory. 1, Kenya shillings 75 million will be due for each county.
Senator Cherarki, what is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, Standing Order 105 and 101, Madam Speaker, I've had the benefit of reading this bill. There is nowhere that says we are being rewarded for having good manners. So is it in order for the great senator who says public are watching to mislead the public that we are being rewarded for giving good manners, Madam Speaker?
Senator Cherarki, I don't think that Senator said the Act says it is rewarding for good manners. I don't recall that. Proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to urge Senator Sergei, the medium of communication in this House is either Swahili or English. It is never Kiluya or Kalenjin. So when we choose to speak in English, Madam Speaker, he should make an effort and understand the specific words used. The word I used, Madam Speaker, for clarity is incentivize. I never talked about rewarding. Now, as an old boy of Kapsabet High School, your teacher who taught you English must be wondering what became of my student. Madam Speaker, Kenya shillings 75 million for each county government that has increased its own source revenue by at least 5% annually over the above rate of inflation.
Senator Cherarki, what's your point of order?
Madam Speaker, contents of, Standing Order 101 on contents of speech. If Senator Kalwale wants to discuss my character and my ability, he should bring a substance. And you know, Madam Speaker, I cannot allow this to go. There is a day he referred to me that I went to Kumbaro School, and it is unanswered. In fact, Madam Speaker, this issue of allowing Senator Kalwale to get away with some of these things, in fact, is not, Madam Speaker, the last time he said I went to Kumbaro School, and it is unanswered. I request your principal clerks even to give you that clip, Madam Speaker. So can he withdraw and apologize?
Senator Halwale, for insinuating that the English of Senator Gerard Gay is wanting, can you please withdraw and apologize?
Madam Speaker, I have quickly withdrawn those remarks and profusely apologize not only to the senator, but also the family of Kapsabet High School, led by the teacher who taught him English. But I don't know whether he got 100% in English. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, the second recognition will be Kenya shillings, 75 million shillings for each county government that will have prepared and implemented an action plan so as to reduce the stock of pending bills and maintain it at minimum levels. This is so important. The pending bills hanging around in Kisumu County, hanging around in Kakamega and everywhere, we are rewarding governors by 75 million if they make an attempt to maintain the stock of those pending bills at the lowest amount. And then Kenya shillings, 97,500,000 for each county government that will have integrated its human resource records, authorized staff establishment and payroll, and uploaded cleaned payrolls in the human resource management information system. In this, we are attempting to recognize the importance of eradicating ghost workers. So if we see the human resource management in the county government is taking this effort, there's a reward of 95 million shillings, 500,000. Fourthly, allow me, Madam Speaker, to switch off my phone, it's distracting me. Sorry, Madam Speaker. These things, I got them in Nairobi, they are not in Kakamega, so I don't know how to manage them very quickly. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've now complied. Then there is Kenya shillings, 45 million for each county government that is enhancing accountability for the results through an integrated performance management framework. And finally, Kenya shillings, 60 million for each county government which has a PIM or dashboard with citizen feedback mechanisms. Very quickly, Madam Speaker, as I conclude the moving of this very important bill, I want to speak to two last points. The first one is books of accounts to reflect national government transfers. We would like governors to know that each county treasury is obligated, shall reflect all the transfers of conditional allocations that will be made by the national government to the respective county government in its books of accounts. There is a risk that this money, once it hits the county revenue account, a clever, shall I call him clever by half, governor and his team can choose not to reflect. And if they so do, Madam Speaker, let them know that there are consequences. And the consequences are in clause 10, where we have provided that despite any other law, a serious or persistent non-compliance with this act constitutes offenses of financial misconduct under Section 197 of the Public Finance Management Act. And a person who commits an offense under subsection 1 is liable on conviction to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 5 years or to a fine not exceeding 10 million or both. Senators, many of you, either at one time or another, you are amicus curiae to the public accounts public investments committees or your members, you see people who handle finances in the county government feigning ignorance or silence when you're pinning down the governor. It is now clear in this law that they risk going to prison for 5 years or paying a fine of 10 million or both. Finally, Mr. Speaker, given that all politics is local, allow me to make one local statement. Namely, if you go to the first schedule, it has shown the returns on court fines and the share of the 20% royalties on behalf of the people of Kakamega County. I want to tell some people in the National Treasury, please don't take the entire populace of Kakamega for fools. Madam Speaker, why do I say this? They say the only money we collected through court fines in Kakamega, and you have practiced law there, is only 16,555 shillings. 16,000 in Kakamega. Then, Madam Speaker, sorry, I got it wrong, that in Kakamega, you collect 0 from court fines. But the most ridiculous is that from mineral royalties, our 20%, the people of Kakamega, the county of gold mining, our 20% is 16,555 shillings. If I go to Malinya, which is the gold mining market, and I go Haega, gold mining market, I go to Kakamega town, the gold mining headquarters, the people who weigh the gold, sometimes in the evening, a mama who was just cleaning the soil, not doing mining, walks away with 20,000, meaning the investor has gone away with a fortune. Madam Speaker, this deliberate shortchanging of gold mining centers. We have gold in Restman. We have gold, Madam Speaker, in Shikalagala. We have gold in Majiris. We have gold in Mwiritsa, in Shinyalu. We have gold in Masienze. We have gold in Mseno. We have gold in Lirembe, in Shitoli, in Malinya, in Shikoe, in Isulu, in Bushiangala, in Shahalia. Please, this joke must stop. This is robbery of the people of Kakamega. I'll go with this bill, Madam Speaker, to the Minister for Minerals, my own brother, His Excellency, Governor Emeritus Hassan Joho. I tell him this has to stop. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I invite the Mamba Eater, the distinguished senator from Tana River, Senator Danson Mungatana, my very good old friend, to second me.
Senator Mungatana.
Mr. Speaker, may I take this opportunity to thank the Honorable, indefatigable legend, Senator from the great county of Kakamega, for ably moving this bill before this House. Madam Speaker, this bill has only 8, in fact 10 clauses. But Madam Speaker, it's one of the most important bills that defines the duties of this Senate of the Republic of Kenya. And Madam Speaker, some of the clauses are extremely important, and we need to let the people know what these clauses stand for. I will not repeat, Madam Speaker, that there are conditional and unconditional grants. Maybe I'll come back to it, but I wanted to emphasize on Clause 7. Clause 7 talks about the Cabinet Secretary who is supposed to publish the entire quarterly reports of what monies they have transferred conditionally in the whole Republic of Kenya to the various counties. And Madam Speaker, it is not a secret anymore. And we want Kenyans to start looking at these figures, the numbers, so that people can see what is happening in their counties. Believe you me, even though you live here in Nairobi, the day you die, we are going to hire a bus and sing for you songs and take you to Tana River if you came back from Tana River. If you came from other counties, same process. You'll probably be ferried by a bus or some vehicle. And Madam Speaker, it is critical for people who are living in Nairobi, Mombasa, and these big counties because of work, that they know that every quarter there is some money that is coming to your county. Take time to know. It is not proper for our professionals to only keep quiet, and then start criticizing leaders, saying, oh, what is the senator doing? Saying, oh, what is happening in my county? When we have already executed our duty and sent this money, and the report has been published, I want to use the floor of this House to tell fellow professionals and colleagues and citizens who are listening to us that it is not enough for you to just contribute to harambees for sending children to school, harambees that are in your village that involve construction of a classroom or the church, and you say you're doing well for. You must directly get involved. When these funds are transferred, what is it that they are doing? So I wanted to say that it is important for us to be involved with what is happening on the countryside. Madam Speaker, I wanted to also to speak to Clause 10. Clause 10 talks about criminalization of serious non-compliance or persistent non-compliance with the officers, by the officers who are obligated to carry out certain duties. And Madam Speaker, when I'm talking about this specifically, I am on to the officers in Treasury. Nobody has ever been charged under these sections. Yet we know, Madam Speaker, many times there has been persistent and very serious violations or delays when it comes to transferring funds from the National Treasury to our county revenue funds. Madam Speaker, it is so sad that we pass law, but when it comes to executing these laws, it is just another story. It is not taken seriously. And it pains me, Madam Speaker, because just the other day, 2 days ago, there was a big headline that our sister house, National Assembly Committee of Education, discovered from the Auditor General that for the last 4 years, 3.7 billion had been lost to ghost allocations. 3.7 billion, Madam Speaker, over a period of 4 years. And Madam Speaker, the news is gone, because in Kenya it's a 24-hour cycle. Today people are excited, tomorrow they forget about it. And then what? There's no minister who has been fired. There's no PS who has been called to account. Nothing is happening. Because when it comes to financial issues, it's like even when we have put clause 10 here to criminalize bad or gross or persistent violations of the provisions by officers in Treasury, nothing happens. And now we have seen it in the National Assembly, nothing happens. And Madam Speaker, even when we come here in the Senate Public Accounts Committee, where we have even the ESCC sitting in our own Senate Public Accounts Committee, even our chairman saying, in other jurisdiction, you, Mr. Governor, should not have left these precincts. You'd be going down to jail or to answer charges. Madam Speaker, with ESCC sitting there, not even bothering to take a statement, nothing happens. And Madam Speaker, this is the attitude that Kenyans are getting used to when it comes to financial matters. No wonder, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, people, and it has become a culture now, they aspire into government offices, not so that they can help our Kenyan population.
Honorable Senators, it's now 6:30 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. Senator Mungatana, you have a balance of 12 minutes to continue seconding the bill when we resume. The Senate, therefore, stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, 17th July, 2025 at 2:30 p.m.